But we can tell you that before heading to Jeddah, Biden had another stop, Palestine. He made 2 quick stops in East Jerusalem and Bethlehem. Both cities were under strict security lockdown. Biden's first engagement was at the Augusta Victoria Hospital in East Jerusalem. He arrived, and as he arrived, one thing stood out. Something was missing on the presidential limousine, the Beast. Until yesterday, Biden's car had 2 flags on the hood, the US flag and the Israeli flag. But in East Jerusalem, the Israeli flag was missing. And that's not all. Biden did not take Israeli officials to East Jerusalem. He asked them to stay behind. In Israel, it's a big political statement. You see, East Jerusalem was not always under Israeli control. It was captured after the 1967 war. The international community does not recognize it as part of Israel. So the missing flag could be a political statement, a confusing political statement. Now, why do I say confusing? Take a look at this.
I'm honored to be back here in the capital of Israel.
You heard him. That was Joe Biden in Jerusalem this week. He openly called the city the capital of Israel. Yet in East Jerusalem, he took off the Israeli flag. So naturally, there's a lot of speculation. Does Biden support a divided Jerusalem? Or was this yet another gaffe? We'll answer that in a bit. For now, let's return to Biden's hospital visit. The US president announced $100 million for Palestine. This money will be used to build hospitals in the West Bank. From East Jerusalem, he headed to Bethlehem. He was welcomed by Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. They inspected the Guard of Honor and then got down to business. For Palestine, Biden's visit is an opportunity. The former president, Donald Trump, openly sided with Israel. He even cut down funding for Palestine. Compared to that, Joe Biden is more sympathetic. Today, he reaffirmed his support for the 2-state solution.
Now, as President of the United States, my commitment to that goal of a 2-state solution has not changed in all these years. 2 states along the 1967 lines were mutually agreed to swaps remain the best way to achieve equal measure of security, prosperity, freedom, and democracy for the Palestinians as well as Israelis.
The sentiment is great, but does Joe Biden have the political capital to do so? Even without a 2-state solution, look at what Israel has achieved. 6 Arab countries have normalized ties with them. Saudi Arabia could be the next one. So America is running out of leverage. The Arab states are embracing Israel under the status quo, not under the promise of accelerating a 2-state solution. And Palestinian leaders realize this. Listen to this warning by President Mahmoud Abbas.
The opportunity for a 2-state solution on the 1967 borders may be available today, and it may not remain for a long time.
President Abbas has seen the writing on the wall. The new generation of Arab leaders is not focused on Palestine. They're focused on a post-oil future. They are focused on countering Iran. And for that, the Arab world needs Israel. Even Joe Biden realizes this. The perfect example is the killing of Al Jazeera journalist Shireen Abu Akleh. The United Nations has found that she was killed by an Israeli bullet. The whole world knows this. But listen to how Joe Biden tackled the issue.
The United States will continue to insist on a full and transparent accounting of her death and will continue to stand up for media freedom everywhere in the world.
Not a single word about Israel's role. You see, Israel's strategic importance outweighs the Palestinian cause. In the last century, that was not the case. Palestine was a rallying cause for the Arab world. If US presidents wanted Arab support, they had to support Palestine. But that's not the case anymore. One by one, Arab countries are embracing Israel. So the 2-state solution is on the back burner, which brings us back to the Jerusalem question. What is Biden's position on the most controversial city in the world? The readout of his meeting with Abbas offers some clues. I'm going to quote from what he said. President Biden reiterated the US position that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel and that the specific boundaries of sovereignty in Jerusalem must be resolved through final status negotiations between Israelis and Palestinians. In other words, figure it out yourself. Until then, the US will employ such symbolic moves like removing the Israeli flag and not taking Israeli officials along in East Jerusalem. These may have a shock value, but beyond that, they do not really help Palestine. So Trump or Biden, Republican or Democrat, the US policy towards Palestine continues to remain the same: manage the crisis with no intention of solving it. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.